Hello, beautiful people. Shalom, moneymakers. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button because you're about to get a full dose of some of the juiciest, most up-to-date crypto news around. Today, we've got some insane stories. XRP making history, Japan throwing a wrench in the market, and a crazy story about an NBA superstar, a massive celebrity, and Coinbase that took nearly 10 years to recover from. This one's a real roller coaster, so let's dive in. The current state of XRP. All right, let's start with XRP, which has been making some big moves recently. As of today, XRP is sitting at $3.03, down about 1.19% on the day. We've seen the whole crypto market take a slight dip, and it seems like the reason for this downturn is coming from a very unlikely place: Japan. Now, I know what you're thinking. What does Japan have to do with my crypto investments? Well, it turns out a lot. The Japanese stock market has taken a pretty big hit recently, and historically, we've seen this affect the global markets, including crypto. You might have noticed that Ethereum, Solana, XRP, all of them are down today, and this sell-off coincided directly with a downturn in the Japanese stock market. If you're paying close attention, you'll notice that Japan's market is notorious for having ripple effects on global financial markets. When their stock market dips, it often drags down other markets across the globe. Why? Well, it all comes down to interconnectivity. Assets are often traded across different regions by the same people, and this creates a sort of domino effect when one market goes down. So, if you're wondering why your portfolio looks a little red today, now you know. The Japanese stock market has a history of causing these kinds of movements in the broader market. And let me tell you, it's not the first time this has happened. Why Japan's economy affects the crypto market. It's not just a random coincidence either. Japan has been a major player in the global economy for decades. Its economic policies and stock market movements can cause a chain reaction that impacts a lot more than just the Japanese market itself. We've seen this multiple times in the past, and it's something every trader and investor should be aware of. Japan's economic policies can influence everything from the U.S. stock market to commodity prices, and yes, even crypto. What's happening now isn't exactly ideal for the Japanese market. Years of financial decisions, government policies, and global trade pressures have led Japan into a bit of a tricky situation, and recently, their stock market has been underperforming. This is a trend we've seen in the past, and it has had some far-reaching consequences. For example, do you remember August 2024? That's when we saw the Japan carry trade crisis, which caused a domino effect across the global markets. The consequences were felt not just in Japan, but all over the world, including in the crypto space. When large financial markets stumble, it often triggers selling in other markets as investors panic. This is exactly what we're seeing today, as assets in the Japanese stock market and cryptocurrencies are being sold off simultaneously. Now, we're left to watch and see how this plays out. If the Japanese stock market continues to slide, we could be looking at some more turbulence across the global markets, including crypto. This is definitely something to keep an eye on in the coming days. The impact of market cycles on crypto now. Let's take a step back and look at the broader picture. Historically speaking, September has been a pretty rough month for crypto. But here's the thing. When September is green, things tend to look much better for October. There's a long history of markets moving up after a positive September, and this could be exactly what we're seeing right now. In fact, let's look back at a couple of key years. In 2021, after a relatively flat September, Bitcoin surged by 40% in October. Similarly, in 2017, we saw a decline in September, followed by a huge surge of 47% to 53% in the next couple of months. So, even though September has traditionally been a tough month for crypto, history suggests that October could bring a lot of positive movement. This doesn't mean we should get too comfortable, though. As you know, the crypto market is known for its volatility, and anything can happen at any time. Still, if history has taught us anything, it's that after a positive September, October can often be a good month for crypto. So, let's remain cautiously optimistic and see where the market takes us in the next couple of weeks. But let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. It's important to remember that not all markets move in predictable patterns. Just because September was green doesn't necessarily mean that October will follow suit. There are always new variables, like geopolitical events or regulatory changes, that can cause unexpected shifts in the market. XRP ETF launches and breaks records. Now, let's talk about some exciting news. The XRP ETF, which launched yesterday, is making waves in the financial world. On its very first day of trading, it recorded a massive $37.7 million in volume. This is the largest day-one natural volume of any ETF launched this year. And let me tell you, for all the people out there who've been saying that nobody cares about XRP, this is your proof. The XRP ETF is generating a ton of interest, and the fact that it's breaking records on its first day shows that the market is paying attention. But here's the real kicker. We're talking about BlackRock and Fidelity. These two financial giants have yet to get involved in the XRP ETF game. But after seeing these numbers, it would be hard for them to ignore the growing interest in XRP. They've made their money in Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, but the massive success of this XRP ETF could be enough to make them rethink their stance. Why is this important? Well, BlackRock and Fidelity are two of the largest asset managers in the world. If they enter the XRP market, it would be a game changer for the cryptocurrency. Their involvement could lead to greater legitimacy, more institutional investment, and ultimately, a rise in XRP's price. So, we need to keep an eye on these two companies over the next few months to see if they jump on the XRP bandwagon. Kevin Durant's crypto mishap. All right, let's shift gears a bit. I want to tell you a story that's as crazy as it is relatable. NBA superstar Kevin Durant, yes, the one and only, made an investment in Bitcoin way back in 2016. Back then, Bitcoin was trading at just $650. Fast forward to today, and Bitcoin is worth over $117,000. Now here's the twist. Durant couldn't access his Coinbase account for nearly 10 years. That's right, 10 years. Apparently, Durant invested in Bitcoin back when it was worth next to nothing, but he wasn't able to access his Coinbase account until just recently. And the reason? Well, there's some confusion over whether he forgot his login details or if there was another issue with his account. But let's be real here. Imagine the amount of money he could have made if he had access to that account earlier. He could have seen his initial $650 investment turn into millions. Instead, he was locked out of his account for nearly a decade. The good news is that Coinbase helped him recover his account, and he's finally able to access his funds. But this story really highlights a bigger point. Even the richest and most famous people in the world aren't immune to mishaps in the crypto world. And it's a reminder to all of us to keep track of our passwords, usernames, and backup keys. This story is a bit of a wake-up call for anyone using centralized exchanges like Coinbase. While they're convenient, they also come with risks, like being locked out of your account for years, just like Kevin Durant was. And that's why it's so important to use good practices when securing your crypto. Remember your login details, use two-factor authentication, and back up your keys. The power of XRP for cross-border payments. Let's wrap things up by talking about why XRP is such an important piece of the puzzle when it comes to the future of money. One of my viewers, Vincent, shared a really insightful post with me. He had to send money to 3 different people across the globe, from the US to Sweden and Germany, and each transfer was going to cost him between $25 and $50, and it would take several business days to process. But here's the kicker. If Vincent had used XRP, the transaction would have been completed in just a few seconds and for under $50. That's the real power of Ripple and XRP. In a world where traditional banking systems are slow and costly, XRP offers a faster and more affordable alternative. It's a real game changer, especially when it comes to cross-border payments. We've all been there, waiting for days to receive money because it's stuck in the slow, outdated banking system. And don't even get me started on the fees. International transfers can be insanely expensive. But with XRP, that's all a thing of the past. The world needs crypto to solve these real-world problems. XRP is positioning itself as the solution to one of the most complex issues in finance: cross-border payments. And the fact that it's fast, affordable, and